She dreamed of runways. He lived for risk and reward. Together, they burned fast. And when it ended in blood. If you're a fan of true crime and criminal investigations, you won't want to miss our new book, The Ultimate Book of Serial Killers, 180 Files of the World's Most Notorious Murderers, now available on Amazon. You can also purchase the PDF version directly from our website for instant download. You'll find the link in the video description and in a pinned comment. Now, let's dive into today's case. Mayka Kukucova was born in 1990 in a small Slovakian town. From early childhood, she was striking, not just in beauty, but in ambition. While other girls played pretend, Mayka already had a vision. She would become a model, nothing less. By her teenage years, she was already posing for photographers, accepting local offers. But small-town Slovakia couldn't give her what she craved. She wanted international stardom, catwalks, magazine covers. So at 18, she packed her life into a suitcase and left home, headed for the United Kingdom. She landed in Bristol, full of hope. But the reality of modeling abroad was harsher than she expected. The gigs were rare, the money was tighter, and dreams don't pay rent. To survive, Mayka cleaned hotel rooms, waited tables, folded shirts in stores. The glamour she'd hoped for never arrived. Her career stalled. Her confidence wavered. But one thing was certain: she would not go back to Slovakia defeated. In 2010, Mayka stumbled across an ad that would change everything. A jewelry shop in Bristol was hiring a sales assistant. She applied, dressed her best, and walked in for the interview. That's when she met him. Andrew Bush, 44, self-made millionaire, and very available. He'd built his wealth from the ground up. No inheritance, no shortcuts, just sheer hustle. A man of routines, early mornings at the gym, long days managing his expanding jewelry empire. He lived large, sports cars, a mansion, and a reputation. After divorcing the mother of his daughter, Ellie, Andrew made headlines and raised eyebrows, dating women decades younger than him. Mayka? She caught his eye instantly. She got the job. Then she got the man. Despite their age gap, sparks flew. He admired her beauty, her hunger for life. She was drawn to his power, his polished confidence, his world of fast cars and first-class flights. With Andrew, Mayka's world transformed. Designer clothes, luxury handbags, globe-trotting holidays. They spent long weekends in Spain, especially at his villa. He spoiled her, and she basked in it. For Mayka, this wasn't just a relationship. It was a fairy tale. For Andrew, it was exciting. At first, but paradise had cracks. Andrew was a businessman, constantly juggling meetings and obligations. Mayka? She wanted every second of his time. If he was gone too long, the questions started. Then accusations. Then the screaming matches. She watched him like a hawk. A waitress smiling too long? A female customer in the shop? To Mayka, it was betrayal. Jealousy took root, and it was suffocating. Andrew tried to overlook it. She was stunning, and he enjoyed the envy she sparked. But soon, the arguments turned physical. She began throwing things, yelling, demanding, and slowly, the man who had given her the world started pulling away. What had started as passion was starting to feel like prison. He thought it was love. She thought it was forever. But when the gifts stopped, so did the illusion. And what followed wasn't heartbreak, it was obsession. Andrew Bush was starting to feel like a stranger in his own life. Mayka had once seemed like a breath of fresh air, but over time she had changed. The relationship had become tense, toxic. She wanted access to everything, his schedule, his location, even his phone. He didn't like that, and he really didn't like that she was spending his money like water. Handbags, clothes, jewelry. Mayka didn't look at price tags. She didn't ask. She expected. And Andrew? He was getting tired of always saying yes. The arguments escalated. Every no became a full-blown scene. She threw tantrums when he set boundaries. This wasn't the woman he'd first met. And worse, he caught her lying, repeatedly. One day, she even claimed to have been in a car accident just to make him worry, to get his attention. Andrew had seen enough. By November 2013, he made a decision. The relationship was over. It was already falling apart. And then came the final straw. Andrew had a business trip planned to the Middle East. He was going alone. Mayka didn't like that, at all. She begged to come along. He refused. And just days before departure, he walked into his house to find her handcuffed. She told him there had been a break-in, that burglars had tied her up and stolen several items, including his passport. But the story crumbled fast. No forced entry, no witnesses, no fingerprints. Police couldn't find a shred of evidence. No one believed her, not even Andrew. Instead of keeping him home, it pushed him away. He ended things for good, moved out, and this time he didn't look back. Mayka was devastated. She couldn't accept it, wouldn't. She tried everything to win him back. She flooded his phone with pictures of them together, added quotes about love and regret, posted their memories on social media, tagging him, maybe hoping mutual friends would take her side. But no one did, not even Andrew. To those around him, her behavior looked more desperate than romantic. Eventually, Mayka packed her bags and left the UK, back to Slovakia, back to her old life. She met someone new. Things looked promising. For a while, it seemed like she had finally moved on. Andrew didn't stay single for long. Just a month after the breakup, he was already seeing someone new. She was young, beautiful, foreign. Her name was Maria, 20 years old, from Russia. Maria wasn't like the others. She didn't need Andrew's money. She came from wealth, bought her own clothes, paid for her own life. Andrew loved that. With her, he wasn't a wallet. He was a man again, happy, spontaneous, free. Their social media pages were filled with glamorous snapshots, island holidays, champagne parties, candlelit nights. But someone else was watching. Mayka saw everything. The trips she never took, the smiles that weren't meant for her, the life she thought was hers, replaced. And then came April 5th, 2014. Andrew and Maria flew into Malaga at 9:30 p.m. They were planning a relaxing weekend at Andrew's villa. One of his cars, a Hummer, had been left at the airport for them. They picked it up, stopped for a quick drink at a local bar, then made their way home. By the time they pulled up to the villa, it was nearly midnight. The front door opened, and something felt wrong. There were women's clothes scattered near the entrance. Inside one of the rooms, they found a suitcase, high heels, pajamas. It didn't belong to either of them. Someone had been in the house. Someone was still in the house. Maria turned and saw her. A woman in pajamas, standing silently at the top of the stairs. She had never met her in person. But she knew that face from framed photos in Andrew's home. It was Mayka. She wasn't just an ex. She was dangerous. So dangerous that Andrew had taken legal action, filing for a restraining order to keep her away. And now, there she was, in his home, in the middle of the night. Maria bolted from the house, waited outside, shaking, confused. Andrew, though, stayed behind. He was furious. This had gone too far. He was ready to confront her. She couldn't just walk into his home, break the law, ignore court orders. Maria waited, hoping the confrontation would end quickly. But after several minutes, Andrew came outside, expression unreadable. "Call the police," he told her, then turned and walked back inside. Maria reached for her phone. It was dead. She remembered the outdoor power sockets, plugged it in, waited. Then, 3 sharp bangs. Gunshots? Number that couldn't be. Maybe a suitcase falling down the stairs. She didn't want to believe what she had heard. Moments later, Mayka walked out of the house, composed, calm. She approached Maria. "Andrew's in the bathroom," she said. "He told me I could take the car to the airport." She showed her the keys. Maria, dazed and confused, stepped out of the car. Mayka got in and drove away, into the night, in Andrew's Hummer. Maria tried to go back inside, but the door was locked. She called out for Andrew. Nothing. Finally, her phone had enough charge to make one call. She called Andrew's sister, Rachel. The 2 women were close, and when Rachel heard what had happened, she didn't hesitate. "Call the police," she said, "right now." But the police couldn't find the villa. Maria had to walk to the main road, waving them down. Finally, they arrived. And what they found inside the house changed everything. They searched every room, until finally, Andrew. He was lying on the floor, covered in blood, 2 gunshot wounds to the head, 1 to the shoulder. There was no pulse, no hope. He was already dead. And there, in his hand, was a pistol. But it was a lie. It was impossible that Andrew had shot himself. The gun had been placed there, after the murder, and there was only one person who could have done it. Mayka had vanished. A few miles from the house, Andrew's Hummer was found, abandoned. No sign of her. The manhunt went international, across Spain, then across Europe. Where was Mayka Kukucova? 4 days later, she walked into a police station in Slovakia. She said she was ready to turn herself in. Mayka knew the hunt was closing in. She had asked her new boyfriend to fly to Spain. He picked her up and drove her back to her hometown. Now, she was handing herself over. Her excuse? She claimed she was pregnant with Andrew's child, that she had traveled to Spain just to tell him, that she'd arrived 2 days before Andrew and Maria. She said neighbors could confirm she was in the garden that day. She claimed that Andrew was furious when she told him she was pregnant, that he grabbed a gun, that he fired at her, that in the chaos, the weapon discharged by accident 3 times. But investigators knew early on that story didn't hold. For one thing, she wasn't pregnant. And Andrew? He hadn't fired the gun. There were no traces of gunpowder on his hands. The angle and distance of the gunshots made it physically impossible for him to have pulled the trigger. Forensic teams concluded the gun was fired from approximately 5 feet away. That meant one thing: premeditated murder. The evidence was clear. And 6 weeks after Andrew's death, Mayka Kukucova was extradited to Spain. She was placed in custody and denied bail. Her trial began in May 2016. In court, Mayka painted herself as a victim, again. She said Andrew had abused her, that she feared him, that he had a violent temper. But if that were true, why go to his villa alone? Why wait for him in secret? Why bring a weapon? Her story kept changing. The pregnancy? She dropped it, likely because the timeline proved it false. Had she really been expecting a child in April 2014, that child would have been 2 years old by trial. Then she claimed Andrew had invited her to retrieve her belongings. But again, if he was as dangerous as she claimed, why return at all? She even tried to explain the scratches on her body, saying Andrew had attacked her during an argument. But DNA evidence proved he hadn't even touched her. Her injuries? Still unexplained. And the gun? It was never conclusively linked to either of them. But one thing was certain. Mayka used it. The timeline proved everything. When Andrew stepped outside and told Maria to call the police, Mayka made a choice. Instead of leaving, she found the weapon, and when he came back inside, she used it. On May 27, 2016, Mayka was found guilty of murder and unlawful entry. She was sentenced to 15 years and 6 months in prison, 15 years for killing Andrew Bush, 6 months for unlawfully entering his home. She was also ordered to pay €200,000 to Andrew's family and cover all court costs. Her legal team appealed. They argued she had turned herself in, that she still had a key, so technically there was no break-in. And in 2017, her sentence was reduced to 13 years and 9 months. For Andrew's family, justice still felt out of reach because until 2022, they couldn't even bring his body home. His remains were kept in Spain, forensic evidence held in limbo. Mayka's ongoing appeals meant a retrial was always possible, and so his family waited, year after year. Then, one day in 2022, Rachel, Andrew's sister, was scrolling online, and she saw it. Photos of Mayka, out in Spain, free, no announcement, no notice from authorities, just freedom. Andrew's family had expected her to serve every day of her sentence. Instead, she had served roughly 8 years. To them, far too short. After Andrew's murder, Maria shared her grief with the world. His ex-wife flew to Spain with their daughter Ellie to say goodbye. And Andrew's family still searches for peace, in a world where justice sometimes feels unfinished. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.